Okay, yes,
The boys
sir.
back behind the table. Sir, I'll start us off.
Go for it.
I had a lot of things to talk about last week, but it didn't really work without the reaction. So I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad to have someone to bounce them off of. The first concept that I'm tailing is the name Aliyah. And people named Aliyah. It's a very hot name right now in sports. We got Aliyah Boston, is not only the runaway for Rookie of the Year, is easily an all-star this year.
Yeah, player of the month.
Aaliyah Edwards was a dog last year for UConn on the poster. She'll be back this year. Very pumped to see her back on the court.
Yes, sir.
I'll take you to the diamond. Aliyah Andrews.
All right.
She plays for Athletes Unlimited Softball. They change the teams all the time. She's on Team Leach right now in the yellow jerseys. She is an unreal center fielder. She makes crazy good defensive plays. She at least made the ESPN Instagram. I don't know if she made the top 10, but she was on social media a bunch on Monday night. Just a pair of diving catches, insanely athletic, really good plays. Aliyah Andrews. I don't know how her bat is. I didn't look into her stats, but in defense, she's an electric center fielder. And Athletes Unlimited is awesome. There's obviously always a lot of things to watch. They make it pretty easy to watch. It's on ESPN Networks and ESPN Plus.
Shout out AU.
Shout out AU. They make it easy to watch. The announcers are great. They bring the energy. Love that. The players are fun to watch. They have a lot of personality. Shout out friend of a friend of the pod, Peyton St. George of Duke. 2-time game MVP, which is a good thing, and threw a complete game last night. And FSU ace, Catherine Sandercock, who threw... Was it a no-hitter or a perfect game?
At least a no-hitter.
It was a no-hitter. It was a no-hitter in the Super Regional against South Carolina. So she will be making her debut very soon. She was a top pick. It's just good softball to watch. If you're missing out on softball, that's the place to find it. AU is very fun right now.
So I'd be interested. Aliyah, I have here Aliyah with 1A. We got Aliyah with 1A at UConn. Right? No.
I think she's 2 A's.
I don't know how to spell. So, do we think AA or A? The better name?
Well, right now, I've got single A and a runaway.
Okay.
But that could all change. I mean, Aliyah Edwards, we just kind of saw the beginnings of what she could be last year. So, who knows? I mean, she could take over as the dominant Aliyah this
coming year. And we have Aliyah, R&B legend.
Of course, R.I.P. R.I.P. to Aliyah. It's just a solid name, a great name for sports right now. Aliyah's. Keep an eye out for it. I've got another softball tailing. I talked about this last week, but I was all by myself, and I want to hear if you have thoughts on it and what they are. Jordy Ball.
Yes.
The move of the softball offseason, less than a week after Oklahoma won their second straight title, she was the most outstanding player in the tournament. She was an All-American for the second year. Probably the best returning player in college softball, transferring away from Oklahoma to her home state to play for the Huskers in Nebraska. I think she played the NCAA like a fiddle. She did. Yeah. She went to the best team, became the best player, became the player that they couldn't live without. Now she gets to go home, be where she wants to be, dominate in a much weaker Big Ten conference. Probably will easily be the Big Ten player of the year. I'm a huge fan of her taking control of her career and taking her success and going home with it, and maybe planting more success at Nebraska.
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, obviously she loves Nebraska. She has it tatted on her.
It's tatted. That's kind of a hard tat. I'm not even from Nebraska, but I'm considering it.
Yeah. So, and you just control your own destiny. I love it from these athletes, especially in college.
Yes.
Where you don't get really all that much control.
Yeah.
A little bit more now with NIL and transfer portal stuff, but
definitely
I love it.
And I put Oklahoma on the hot seat last week a little bit because, hear me out, they're still going to be the best team in college softball easily. They're still the best program, best coach. They're returning a lot of players, but they're losing Jordy Ball, their best pitcher, and their second best pitcher, Alex Storako, who is a transfer from Michigan. They're losing her to Women's Pro Fast Pitch. She was the first overall pick in their draft. So they're returning a lot of talent, but their pitching staff can be a little depleted.
Yeah.
And in a softball pitching staff, your top two pitchers are usually your 2 pitchers. You might have a third person in the rotation, but college pitching staffs are very small, and they're losing their top 2 arms. So I'm not putting them on the hot seat, but don't expect them to come out and go 60-1 or whatever it was this year, because they're going to be dealing with some new pitchers. And yeah,
they can hit pretty good.
They can hit pretty well. It doesn't really matter if they give up runs, and they'll also probably get the second and third best pitchers from the portal, but they lost the first best pitcher injury ball. Mm-hmm. So, tailing a lot of softball. Let me hit you some fading. And this should come as no surprise because we seem to fade it every single week. WNBA schedulers just don't know what they're doing. What are we doing? On Wednesday, the lone game of the WNBA slate was a 3:30 p.m. Eastern time game between the Aces and the Mercury in Phoenix. Now, I think matinee games are cool for those of us who don't have jobs. Could not be this pod. Mm-hmm. Hardest working pod on the internet.
Yes, sir.
But if you're at home in the middle of the day, which I sometimes am, it's nice to have a basketball game on to watch, but I would not sacrifice my evening game, especially a West Coast game, to have it at 12:30 local time. This thing started, like, people were in their seats at noon in Phoenix for a basketball game. Not a college basketball game, a WNBA game. Ridiculous. And it was over by probably 5:30 Eastern time, and then there were no more games for the rest of the night. Why? Your 2 most marketable teams, by the way, the Aces and the Mercury, like, those are teams that people will watch on TV.
Yeah, even though the Mercury suck.
They do.
But matinee games are fun for, like, baseball, where they play so many.
Exactly.
You can miss a game.
Exactly. And there are also 30 baseball teams, so there will be 10 more games on after that.
Exactly. W got 40 games.
Yeah.
And you're going to waste one at 12.
You're going to hide one at 12:30 local time.
Especially with the best team in the league.
Right, exactly. You've got all these well-known names, well-known players, people that people are willing to pay to see on a Wednesday while everyone's at work. I mean, who was at that game? That's true. There are a lot of retirees in Phoenix, but like a lot of people are at work.
Only like the Sun could pull off a matinee game.
Exactly. Yeah. Nobody. Most of the Sun audience is unemployed because they're retired. So yeah, like, come on, guys. Just think of the teams. Think of the revenue. Think of your own pockets, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about it later, but the Aces Liberty, I know it's a West Coast game. They're playing at 10 on a Thursday. Like, that is the game, right. And it is past my bedtime.
That is not prime time. That is not what we call prime time. I'm the West Coast. Like, sorry guys, you just get early games. You chose to live out there. Gotta think of the East Coast people. So that's a fading. It seems to be a constant fading. I am also fading high school graduation.
Yes, sir.
Hot take. Alyssa Thompson is headed to the Women's World Cup. Just Congrats. 18 years old. They announced the roster this week. 18 years old is crazy to be playing in the World Cup. I mean, soccer is so interesting to me because you can be the best player in the world at 18. Yeah. You just can. Like, that would never happen in any other sport. I don't know if she is going to skip her high school graduation or if she skipped her high school graduation for a pro game. I don't know what the situation is, but she's not going to graduation. She's going to the World Cup. And honestly, huge respect for her for hitting prom, but skipping graduation. I'm a party animal at heart, and so is Alyssa Thompson. Respect to that move.
That's the way to
she was like, yeah, I'm going to the party, but the degree, I'm playing soccer. Big respect for that move. And shout out Damon for correcting me. I wrote Alyssa Thomas. I wrote this very late at night.
Oops, right.
We talked about the Aliyahs in sports. One thing that I would like to see make its way to women's sports from men's sports is people having different names from each other. There are a lot of repeat names in women's sports right now. Sure. Just like Alyssa Thomas and Alyssa Thompson. It's not their fault, but like those are very similar names. You don't see like a football player named Clay Thomas walking around. Like people would get confused. And there aren't a lot of repeat names in men's sports, but every time I watch a WNBA game, it's like, all right, these 2 teams have Parkers, these 2 teams have Wilsons, these 2 teams have a combined 3 Williamses. There are a lot of repeat names, and sometimes it gets hard to keep track. So sorry to Alyssa Thompson. You're a rock star. I'm going to learn your name. Get it down pat. Damon, those are my tailings and my fadings.
I like it.
I missed having you here. There's a good rapport. I'm glad to have you back. I'd love to hear, what are you tailing this week?
All right, I have a little bonus tailing real quick.
Woo!
Shout out friend of the pod, Caroline Fitzgerald.
Yeah, true.
Sports,
That's
sponsored by
right.
Ally.
All right,
Ally, you want to come drop a bag on another women's sports podcast? Go for
Facts. We are accepting all sponsorships. Home Field for this T-shirt, Home Field Apparel, sponsor us.
There you go.
We'll talk a lot more Indiana women's basketball.
Well, first of all, shout out Caroline.
Big shout out to Caroline. A top 3 guest of all time.
There you go. Oh, man. Okay, I'm telling Alanna Smith. Apparently, when I was gone, the Sky kind of sucked.
The Sky were terrible.
I came back and learned Sky suck, Wings suck.
Yup.
Fever are alright.
Yup.
Everything else, pretty much the same.
Yeah, pretty much as you left it.
Yeah. Alanna Smith, though, a bright spot on that Sky team. My MVP favorite, Kalia Copper, not doing too hot. Courtney Williams, I just saw they're on a 4-game losing streak, at least they were. And over that streak, Courtney Williams and Kalia Copper combined for 41 points.
In 4 games is nuts.
That is a weak backcourt.
That's tough.
So the front court had to step up. I'm shouting out Alanna Smith. She hooped out of Stanford. Couldn't really find a footing in the W. Seems like she found her home.
She's back.
Yep. Elizabeth Williams also.
True.
Looking good this year for this guy.
Another Williams pairing.
There we go.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. And then Smith, there's got to be a few.
There's a few Smiths. There's a lot of Smiths. That's a good tailing. Alanna Smith's kind of a name that I forgot about.
Yeah.
She's kind of having a resurgence because this guy need her.
Yeah, I go on her hoop stats. I look at most valuable players. And Alanna Smith, well, it's by win shares, so you might not care. Alanna Smith is up there. She's like a top 25 player.
That's big.
Now by win shares.
That's big.
Even though her team sucks.
They're terrible.
Apparently.
They score like 67 points per game or something. It's terrible. It's terrible. That's a good tailing.
I'm fading the playoffs.
Ooh.
Usually you tail the playoffs, but the W playoffs are so big.
They are.
We got 8 teams making it. There's only 12 teams in the league. Right now, if the playoffs started, half of those teams would be above 500.
That's so crazy. Like, why do we need that? Like, 2/3 of the league making the playoffs.
Yeah.
And only 1/3 of the league has a winning record. Like, it's just dumb. Like, keep the playoffs, expand the league.
Yeah.
Like,
You have 12 teams in the playoffs, 8 teams in the playoffs, you just can't have 12 teams in the league.
Have a normal sized league, right? Exactly. So
yeah.
There's only 4 teams that aren't making the playoffs. It just doesn't make any sense.
We talk about the Fever. They're in the playoffs right now with 5 wins.
They are. Going to make the first round of the playoffs. Very interesting.
They better tank for their own sake.
It'd be disgusting.
But, you can tank and make the playoffs.
Right. Exactly. And we don't get to have any, real conversations about can this team make the playoffs. It's like anybody can make the playoffs. So they win, a couple games in a row and you're in playoff position.
Yeah, especially with only 40 games.
Yeah.
You go on a 4-game losing streak, you're kind of screwed.
Big time.
The Sky.
Shout out to Sky.
Dropping like crazy.
Shout out to the Sky.
And then the Fever, what was that, 2 games and then another one, not in a row.
Yeah, no, three
you're hot
in the last 4, you're a playoff team. That was a great tailing and fading. It's good to be back. It feels